Start off, don't worry, it's all good. Just bang on, it's all good. Yeah, this is professionalism as we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey, folks, welcome into Pro Football Ireland Monday morning football. Monday morning football after week 14 of the NFL season. We are live. If you're watching and listening, we're live right now on social media. If you're listening to the podcast on the Monday morning, German Market, thank you so much. Go to YouTube, get your comments in. Michael McQuaid, Conor Mangan. We presume Michaela is mid-flight or she's fell asleep in the airport. I don't know. But first off, Conor, Kajay, what's crack?
Not much crack now. Enjoying my weekend. It is 12 degrees Celsius on a Sunday in Toronto. It's way too warm. Doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what's happening, which is very reflective of the current NFL season. Like, why, oh, why are the Buffalo Bills scrambling to try and get into the playoffs for some reason, and at the same time, maybe about to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? It makes no sense. Just like the 12 degrees and also it is 12 degrees in Toronto, but I was ice skating yesterday at 12 degrees. I have no idea how the ice stays cold. I don't know how they do it. But it was absolutely beautiful. A bunch of Irish lads were there. We had a lovely time and a few delicious pints of Guinness afterwards. It was fantastic.
What an intro. As people know by now, for 13, 14 weeks in, we don't talk about Sunday Night Football because we're not maniacs, but we are. I mean, Connor's in the East Coast. I'm staying up tonight to watch it. It's going to be a great game. When I say I'm staying up, the last 2 weeks I fell asleep at the half. So we'll see what happens. But I'm staying up, so we'll be off before Sunday Night Football starts. If you're, again, folks, do comment live on YouTube. We can put it on the screen. It's more difficult if you comment on X. We are talking the only game going on right now as we speak. Everything else is finished. The only game going on right now is the Bills against the Chiefs, and the Bills have just made it 20-17 with 1:54 left. So we'll come back to them in a few minutes. I'd love to just start off, Conor. 2 months today, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. That's the big day. So it's hard to believe. It's hard. I mean, the season's nearly over, man. It's scary.
Well, I think we're only getting into the business end of things, Mr. McQuaid. It obviously gets more exciting and more exciting as it goes. I'll tell you what I do, though, just maybe a little take. One of the things I've been thinking about for a while.
Go for it.
With all the sports and everything that's been flooded, and maybe the GAA as well, a little bit in Ireland, I think a lot of sports are getting flooded with almost too many games. In particular, like even maybe rugby, a lot of these club games, way too many games. Anyone watches the NHL, way too many games. Baseball, way too many games. NBA, there's an in-season tournament you knew nothing about, way too many games. All these things are happening. There's way too many games, except for football. Football, they only added 2 or 3 extra games over the last few seasons, but it is always dynamic. It is always exciting. It's not just the playoffs where it gets unbelievable, which is baseball, by the way. Any baseball fans, once it gets to playoffs, it is night and day. Same with the NHL, but NFL just brings it all the time. Thursday nights, Monday nights, Sunday nights, Sunday during the day. It's brilliant, Michael. I love it.
Three games next Saturday as well for us. Hi to Dustin watching from Texas. Go Cowboys, he's saying. Nice one, Dustin. Big night for you tonight. By the time people are listening to this in the podcast, we'll have known what's happened. Let's make a fool of ourselves very quickly. I'm taking the Cowboys Sunday Night Football. Conor, who are you taking?
Yeah, you're a massive Cowboys fan, but they're playing as the Eagles, who are probably the best team in the NFL. So no, I'm going to go with the Eagles. All right, Bradley Cooper. Let's go, baby. Fly, Eagles, fly.
I've definitely missed the Bradley Cooper talk. Right, let's jump into it. I feel like we will talk about certain games in a minute. I want to bring up a game from the early window. The Browns and the Jags game was so much more enjoyable than I thought it was. But I just want to talk about one guy, JoeFlaco. 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, he wasn't perfect on his completions at all, but this is a guy that everybody thought was done. I mean, are you a JoeFlaco fan?
Honestly, thought JoeFlaco had retired. So I'm right there with you. I had no idea. As I was like full on sure that once JoeFlaco went down injured, Tom Brady would come back. But yeah, he's shown his prowess. I am definitely a fan. I think there's definitely in that position. I think a lot of the quarterbacks may leave their positions a little bit early, even though they do play later in their career. it is that position where experience matters so much, because a great quarterback does not need to be athletic. I don't care who you are. They do not need to be athletic. They do not need to be fast. They do not need to be strong. They need to kind of have that really strong mental game, knowing the timing of things. As Conor McGregor once said, timing beats speed and precision beats power every time. That's the things that experience brings, especially to the quarterback position. You do not need to throw Aaron Rodgers lasers to win a football game. And I think Joe Flacco is out there proving it against one of the best teams in the NFL, Jacksonville Jaguars. So
I was just checking some of the questions that have come in there now. That's the thing, because it was interesting to see Trevor Lawrence come back from his injury so quickly. However, to see Flacco put it up to him is so interesting now, because he is now going to be the starter for the rest of the season. As it stands tonight, the Browns will be in the wild card, which is just stunning to see. And to think Joe Flacco, obviously a guy that won the Super Bowl with a rival in the Ravens, is just so interesting. So it's going to be cool to see what happens over the next few weeks. I think it adds another dilemma of interest to the AFC, and certainly for me, look, the Jags will get the Jags will continue to be around. That's just the way it is. I want to jump on a game. I know we were both watching it in the late window. The Niners. Now, I'm not going to say they decimated the Seahawks, but they definitely came away towards the end. I want to give a shout out to a couple of guys, not a group that have been very good to Pro Football Ireland, especially when many could have walked away over the last year, whenever this is all set up. The 49ers Ireland group, 49ers IRE on Twitter. They had a watch party tonight in central Dublin in Buskers on Temple Bar, and it looked like great cracks. So shout out to Owen, Conor, and all the lads involved there, Mark as well. And I know they're putting a lot of effort into that, so they were definitely happy with that performance tonight. Do you think we'll be watching the Niners?
Why wouldn't you be when you have Christian McCaffrey, a modern day Superman? You got Deebo Samuel, you got Ayuk,
Brock Purdy, boy.
Brock Purdy playing his socks off. George Kittle looking amazing. Nick Bosa just looks like an action figure. Looks like he's made of Play-Doh. Like no one should look like that and move like that and be that strong. Again, just kind of go back to what we were saying all the time. Like I love San Francisco 49ers.
Oh my God.
It's just dropping. I can't believe something happened with the Buffalo.
Did you see that?
I did not see that, Michael. I'm paying attention to the podcast, trying to make it really important.
No, hold on. We have to bring this up. I'm sorry, we have to, right?
This is the joy of live.
Basically, Mahomes just flew the ball to Cal. This is why I love doing this live. Mahomes just flew the ball to Kelsey. Oh, they've said it's offside. But anyway, Kelsey runs 20 yards, laterals the ball to Kadarius Toney, who runs it in for a touchdown. I'm like, holy.
Oh my God.
Anyway, back to the Niners talk. You're a big TikTok guy. Did you see the girl that looks like Brock Purdy on TikTok? No?
No, I didn't.
She's like 15. And she's a spit of Brock Purdy.
Oh,
I'll send you it after this show. Do you think they'll be the NFC champions, more importantly?
Yes.
That was very...
I don't need to elaborate. They definitely
Why?
will. They got the most offensive weapons. They got the least amount of injuries. They got probably the most amount of momentum, I would say. When they're kind of on form, they look unbeatable. And when they're off form, they look just like a really tough team. So, I mean, I think they just have a great mix in there, and they've got a great head coach, and a great fan base, massive fan base. You can see they have their own fan base in Dublin there. Shout out to the lads. I don't see a downside to them at all. They had a couple of picks today too on defense. Their defense looks amazing. It's not just the D line, it's their secondary and everything else. It's their... Yeah, I don't know how you would look at them and argue the other point, that they're not going to win. I'd be more interested in someone telling me why they wouldn't win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Well, props to Deebo, because CMC gets a lot of props, but Deebo today was stunning as well. He's just such a hybrid player where he's obviously a threat on both elements of the offense. And
he blocks, he runs, he's a running back and a wide receiver, same as C-Mac, but he does a lot of blocking too. And so does Kittle, and so is Ayuk. All of them work really together, but they can all receive, they can all run, they can all get yards after contact. They can get yards after receptions. They're they're dynamic, like as dynamic as can be as an offense. They're unreal to watch. I love it.
I do want to say as well, it was a very physical game. As it's 4th and 15 for Kansas City here as we talk right now. It was a very physical game. DK Metcalf got ejected for a WWE style hit. But I do want to say, as a Broncos fan, I've seen a lot of hate and a lot of negativity whenever Drew Lock was announced as a starter due to Geno having an injury. I thought Drew Lock, okay, look, there was a couple of plays that were not good. But for him to go into Levi's tonight and have 2 touchdowns, 22 of 31 for nearly 300 yards. Yes, there were 2 interceptions. I think he exceeded expectations for a lot of them. And for a lot of the game, I'm not being down the Niners at all, but for a lot of the game, the Seahawks stuck in it. They kept pushing. So certainly for me, when you look at the NFC and you look at teams that are on the bubble, they obviously need to win out and hope for a chance now. But, it's interesting. They're 6 and 7. But they've got those weapons. When you've got Kenneth Walker Jr., when you've got Charbonnet in the run game, and when you've got DK, Tyler, Noah Fant, there's always going to be opportunities there. So you hope Geno gets better. But enough Drew Lock hit for me. As we talk, because we can go straight into this right now.
No, he played very well. I totally agree with you. And if you're gonna, I guess the one thing I was thinking about there is the one weakness 49ers might have is kind of slow starts. I know they scored first, but then they were down 10-7 going into the second quarter. And it did look like, I was like, geez, the Seahawks are staying in this. They are looking good. They are looking decent. Then they got a pick as well. So you're kind of like they had a lot of things going for them. And I thought Locke actually great connection with his receivers, like with Lockett there, had a couple of nice passes and stuff. So yeah, I thought they did. As a backup, don't get me talking about backups and Mitchell Trubisky again, because I will never get off this podcast talking about that. But he's a great backup. I'm totally on his side. So yeah, end the hate.
Out of interest, people watching live, more so people in the morning, do you have the Chiefs Bills on in the background?
I don't have the Chiefs Bills. I'm trying to follow on the
15.
We're actually doing a podcast. I'm trying to pay attention to what we're doing, and give the fans, a respectable podcast with, good commentating.
But this what makes it special. Bills are winning the game. 55 seconds left. They've turned the ball, Chiefs turned the ball over. What a huge, this is going to stay, I'm presuming it says, I guess, barring America, because they're going to kneel and get over with it. What a huge win for them. Going the last few weeks that they've had, the negativity, they've been very poor post London, and I'll be the first to say it. Seen them in person, really poor. But to go into Arrowhead, Conor, and for all the problems the Chiefs are having on the offense, there is a lot going on in Buffalo off the field that we're not even going to discuss. A lot of negativity, and they've went in and they've put a marker down by beating Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is losing the rag on the sideline.
I'd be losing my rag too if none of my receivers decided to all of a sudden drop the ball every time I try and throw it to them. No?
I agree, but
it's like it's the same problem the last 3 or 4 weeks for some reason. And we talked about this right before we came on. Like, why is it Travis Kelce, the O-line, and Patrick Mahomes? Like, why are they the only lads out of the 53 that want to play and want to win? Like, why is everyone dropping the ball? I don't understand. Because I look at Patrick Mahomes, he's playing absolutely great. Travis Kelce is actually doing a lot off the ball that tight ends usually wouldn't do. The great tight ends do it. But then he's passing to open receivers who are getting open. They're doing the hard work. They're beating their man. They're running great routes, and they're getting open, and they're just dropping the ball. If I was, I'd be losing the rag too if I was Patrick Mahomes. I'm losing the rag if I'm a Kansas City fan. If I'm Taylor Swift, I'd be starting to lose the rag because my boyfriend might not, make it that far into playoffs. I don't know. I'm more interested, though, to hear what you think about how far the Bills might go now that they've done this in week 13, week 14. How far are they going to go, Michael?
It's such an interesting question, and I do want to add just one element to that. From people have seen it last night, and maybe you fell asleep. Tony with the offside at the end. If he wasn't offside, it would have been a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes losing it. In his career, I have not seen Mahomes lose it. I think for just very quickly on that, they're now 2 games out of the top seed for the AFC, so it looks extremely unlikely because Miami's a game ahead of them, and they haven't even played yet, so there'll be 2 games ahead of them if they win on Monday night. And just to go on and obviously, and we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks. I don't want to do a podcast at Christmas, but Baltimore and San Fran, it's Christmas Day, is going to be sexy, man. Going back to your question, it's hard to know. Like,
Real quick before you talk about the Bills, would anyone have guessed that Kansas City are 8-5 and the Cleveland Browns are 8-5?
well, this is the thing, right? And this is, I'm just putting out a little tweet
But I
saying
just wanted to
Patrick
talk about
Mahomes.
that. But I do want your opinion on Buffalo to see how far they go, because I
Well,
was thinking this was a massive game. If they'd lost this, you're kind of like, this is. I mean,
100%, because I have said, I think was it last week's podcast, I said to you, I think they're done. And I think a lot of people, to be fair, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. I think a lot of people after the last few days would have said, "God, you've got a point there," because of the fact that it's very difficult to go to Arrowhead even when things are going well and win. Ask the Denver Broncos; they haven't won it. They haven't won at Arrowhead in years. They've obviously had issues off the field, but you've seen teams like um, Philly in recent years go to Arrowhead and struggle. The Chargers took whenever they were very, very good last season. They're still a good team. They have issues. They've struggled because there's always that momentum in Arrowhead. And I honestly feel like for the Bills to now go in and win, that's a huge opportunity for them in the last few weeks. Now, I know that they've got the Patriots and they've also got the Jets, I think, in the last four games. They've got the Cowboys next week, which obviously is a monumental game, but the Chargers, the Pats, and the Dolphins, sorry. So they haven't got a very, very easy schedule, but you're looking at that Dolphins game. If they can find a way to get over, and I know Fred's watching live right now, if they beat the Cowboys next week, whole different discussion. I think they might come up one game too short. And I
that's the
think
thing.
you're
Yeah,
looking at teams on the bubble like the Broncos. You're looking at different teams there as well. I think Pittsburgh are gone. But you look at such a dynamic and such a competitive AFC. Like, okay, the Bengals haven't got Joe Burrow, but it looks like Browning can get them over the line in some games. The Texans are going to be up there as well. It's going to be very, very tight, but that's what makes it so beautiful at the end of the day. They've got some run game with James Cook, but you need to see more from Gabe Davis. You need to see more from Dawson Knox. You need to see more from Khalil Shakir. The defense has obviously got things going on. We've seen what's going on off field with Von Miller. They seem to be united. They seem to be united on the field. So I don't know. Time will tell. But what a win for them. Like, nobody can tell them otherwise tonight. Buffalo have went in to a place where they've had their hearts broke before. Like, think of that playoff game last year. And they've won. And it's in the regular season, but they'll use that as momentum going forward. And this could completely flip the switch on the season. And if I'm Josh Allen and I'm looking at him right now smiling, I'm happy enough. Do you think they'll make the playoffs?
I mean, yeah, I do. I would be worried about their schedule coming up, but I mean, in general, this is why the NFL is so exciting. I mean, you look at the NFC South, the Bucks and the Falcons played today for top place. Both of them have a losing record. And then you look at the AFC East and you have, the Bills and the Dolphins kind of fighting it out. It just seems like those two teams are on like a totally different standard than what the Falcons and Bucks might be. Like, no offense to Falcons or Bucks fans. I think the Falcons are in a bit of a rebuild. They do look all right. I love Drake London. And obviously Younghoe Koo.
Oh, he's unreal.
Is a legend. And I mean, the Bucks have their good things too. Mike Evans is an incredible receiver and all these types of things. But I wouldn't think either of them, you'd be like, oh yeah, they're going to go deep. They're going to go far. But if you're thinking like, if Bills get to the playoffs, they could go anywhere they want to if they hit a bit of form. Kind of like they did today to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's just mad that the two of them are going for top place. And then the Bills, if they lose a couple more games, I don't know. But I guess what you're saying there is, this is the time to turn around. This is the time to go. I mean, it would be so funny if the Jets went on a run and the Bills had a tough go the next 3 or 4 weeks. It would just be exactly as the NFL would go, just like shocking and unsurprising.
That's a tough schedule, though. I mean, for them to have to play
tough.
Dallas is one thing. The Chargers are going to be on one after this week. We'll talk about them in a second. Patriots are gone. Fair enough. Give them a win there. Dolphins. Now, that could be a week where the Dolphins have wrapped up. Maybe the Ravens are the number 1 seed at the time of recording. Depends. There's so many more dominoes to fall. on this season. I feel like let's not go off this. There's actually some breaking news, and we're about to talk about this game. Let's not go off this podcast while talking about the Ravens and how good they are. We're going to talk about the Broncos here. They played the Chargers in the late window. Justin Herbert has got a fractured right index finger. It's just been announced.
I thought he did. He looked really bad when I saw him go off, and I was like, he's not coming back. This doesn't look good.
Tell me this. As a player, as a guy that's experienced the ups, the downs so far in your career, and many more to come, hopefully many ups. By the time people are listening to this on a Monday morning at 20 to 9, going to work, going, can I sit in the car park and listen to the rest of this for a few more minutes? Do you think Brandon Staley's still in the job?
Yes, because I don't think it's really his fault. I mean, they were looking like that team that was very dangerous. I thought they were underperforming a little bit, but maybe not necessarily his fault. Herbert were doing great. Now that he's injured, though, I don't know. I think depends on the next few weeks go. I wouldn't say he's gone this week or anything like that. I mean, they came up against a team that's, as I was texting you, have just baffled me. I have no idea why the Denver Broncos have, like, just halfway through the season decided to turn around and be an amazing team. The only thing I can probably think of is that they told Russell Wilson, stop trying to pass the ball more than 15 yards and go for all the under routes and let us do the rest. And they were like, fine. But yeah, I mean, if I was a Chargers fan, I'm pissed, and I probably want them gone because I want something to be done. And I don't know what to do about it, but that's what I'd be thinking. I want them to be done. But I don't think it's the right answer just from, as you said, a player perspective and what I know. I don't think that's the answer to their problem. So maybe a little bit of momentum, but that's about it.
Your phone's pinging, boy.
It is. Sorry,
pinging.
Get this.
I mean, is there a lot of Chargers fans in your finger, or what's the crack?
There's a Cowboys fan texting up a storm in the group chat. That's what's happening. So my apologies.
You're grand, don't worry. Just go on mute whenever I'm talking. You'll be grand. It says here that your StreamYard name is now Conor, now a Broncos fan, I guess. Mangan. Shout out to StreamYard for keeping us going. Just want to give a quick shout out to 5 Farms Irish Cream for the bottle of Irish cream. It's not an advert at all. Just a big shout out to them for the last few days. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet called Corny, listen to it. It's good crack. I enjoyed it.
What's that podcast about? Do you want to remind people?
Neil, that would be a good idea, wouldn't it, Conor, as it's 10 to 1 in the morning here. Neil O'Donoghue, who was born in Clondalkin in Dublin, played the GA, played soccer as well in a time when you weren't allowed to play both sports. And I don't want to give too much away, but a lot of things happened to him in his personal life. He moved to the States, played for Auburn, went to the NFL, and until Dan came in, big up Dan, he was the last active Irish player. And in the NFL, I had the chance to chat to Neil for 5 hours in July for this podcast, and I had the chance to MC or host an evening during the week where we welcomed him home, and it was pretty special. So before I cry, I want to talk about the Broncos, right? And folks, do listen to it. Don't worry, you can't even hear my voice in it. I'm in the very, very end, and that's it. Corny, Corny, the last Irishman in the NFL, and props to Lachlan Hart, who is with News Talk, for giving me the opportunity. It really means an awful lot. So thank you, Lachlan, and thank you, Neil, and your entire family. Never been to Clondalkin in my life. Now I can say I have been. Look, I'm biased as a Broncos fan, but I tell you what, now I've been very down on this team. This is easily the worst picks I've ever made, ever, in the history of this group. Ever. Russell Wilson today was a man reborn. Now, I do not have the average yardage in terms of his passes in front of me, right? But there was deep balls. That catch to Courtland Sutton was sensational. But it was a real story of the second half of the Broncos on the offense. They didn't have a fantastic start to the game. I found that their defense really was key. There was a first quarter touchdown, but the defense really keyed up for them. Alex Singleton had a great game. Jaquan McMillan had a fantastic game, 5 tackles. Josie Jewell had a great game. But for me, Alex Singleton had a standout game for him. Outside of getting an interception or going for a touchdown, Singleton was the standout performer in his defense today. And you have to dare to dream now if you're the Broncos. The Broncos are one game out on the Chiefs in the West. So
Dare to dream. I think so. I just want to run people through something here real quick. All right. So we go to the last preseason game right before the regular season. They're playing against the Rams. They win 41-0. Every Denver Broncos fan is like, this is great. Can't wait to play. Everything's clicking into place. Russell's settled. We got all the right mixes and ingredients to our team. Can't wait. This is going to be a brilliant season. They come up against the Raiders. Raiders do not look that good, and they lose by points, 17-16. Then they play the Commanders. No one really thought the Commanders were going to be up to much, but, they're doing a lot better, I think, than what they thought they'd be. Again, narrow loss, 35-33, but they're like, oh, God, the Commanders, come on, we got to win. It's like week 3, right, we're settled. No, they go against the Dolphins and get absolutely blown the arse out of it, 70-20, destroyed. Then they go play the Bears, which at the time were the worst team in the NFL, and they lose 31-28. So that's 3 very, very narrow losses, 17-16, 35-33, and 31-28. Bar the Dolphins one. Just bear with me. They're 0-4 at the moment. Then they go up against the Jets, who have lost. Basically they spent all their money getting a quarterback, and he was gone in about 12 seconds in Aaron Rodgers. And the Jets, for some reason, won that game against the Bills, which shocked everyone. But since then, they've been absolute trash. They lose against the Jets. 31-21. So what record do the Broncos have at that time? They are 1-4. They're 1-4. Up against the Chiefs, of course, they lose 19-8. Then they're 1-5. Then, I don't know what happened. Maybe Russell Wilson pulled a sword from the stone. They beat the Packers. Then they beat the Chiefs. Don't know how to do that. Then they beat the Bills. Don't know how to do that. Then they beat the Vikings, who were rejuvenated with Joshua Dobbs. Then they beat the Browns. Then they beat the Texans. Today they beat the Chargers. If you're not telling me that someone's in the background there, someone pulled a sword from the stone or picked up Thor's hammer or went Captain America all over it, I don't know what else to tell you, because that is insane.
I love how we have a Captain America reference there. It's been a weird season. I don't think there's any other way to sum it up other than that. It's been a very, very strange season. But it's been a season overall, Conor, where it's not just been one team. You can't call this. You can't. And we're saying earlier on about it being 2 months from the Super Bowl. You can't call how this season's going to go.
Can't call anything. All bets are off. I said Detroit Lions at the beginning of the season maybe could still happen. Do I think so now? I have absolutely no idea, Linda. I haven't a clue.
Linda. We will talk Lions with Jeff Monday night, and we'll talk Bears. We'll talk about the Jets Texans with Jeff as well in detail. Fantastic performance from the Jets. Great improvement from Zach Wilson. Fair play to him. Done an article on him this week. And the Texans going up against a really changed offensive line for New York. Couldn't get it done. Anyway, more on that. I want to talk about the game of the year so far for me. Ravens-Rams in the early window. Now, I know you might have missed a bit of this, but just generally, Conor, how exciting do you think Lamar Jackson is to watch? Am I right in thinking you were at the game in Pittsburgh?
I was, yeah. And it was, and I actually thought, and I think I might have told you at the time, I actually thought that Lamar might have been carrying an injury of some sort, because he got free a bunch of times in that game. This is against the Steelers, by the way, in October, week 5, maybe week 4. It looked like an injury because he got free a couple of times and he went to run and he didn't really run. Today he rushed really, really well. Odell Beckham went all share on it. He turned back time, and for some reason 4 receptions for, was it 90 yards and a touchdown, something like that, something insane. But quick shout out to the Rams for hanging in there. Lucas Haversick, I trained with him all last year. He's an exceptional kicker with the Wildcats. Dude was on fire playing at Arizona in college. A lethal kicker, finally gets a chance. He was with the Rams. He managed to tie things up 31-31. And then in overtime, Michael, what happened in overtime? These Ravens are class. This is a game that the old classic, the classic Ravens team that we know and love would have lost, right? Like, am I right saying that? They would have definitely lost this game, and they came out winning. I think they're looking very strong, along with the Eagles, along with the 49ers, along with the Cowboys. Yeah, the Ravens were class.
So many factors. I love the share reference. Secondly, I completely agree. This is a typical game where Baltimore would have lost usually. But I've seen Rams fans talking about, oh, well, maybe it was too easy of a play for Tylen Wallace at the end to run it in. That was a great play. But the game had me on the edge of my seat. I was watching it. I couldn't care less. Any other game, I was like, this is class. And props to the Rams, a 6-7 football team. I think it's one thing saying they kept them close. They were as good as the Ravens at some points in that game. Cooper Kupp having the best game of the season for him so far. Puka Nacua had a huge catch with 5 minutes to go. Stafford turning back. I feel bad saying turning back the years. The reality is they might be just a little bit off for the wild card. I need to see the NFC conference records generally. I hope they get in because
Yeah,
they're
hitting their form late. I think
they're fun to watch, man.
Very, very fun to watch. They're super exciting. I love them. I would never rule out Matthew Stafford. He was on a dog bag of a team in Detroit and somehow scraped through a bunch of seasons. So now that he has weapons, now that they kind of look like they had a couple of bangs going on, like Coop is back. If he was back a few weeks earlier, you wonder, would this be a bit of a different team? But yeah, we'll see how they go,
Rams are 1 game out of the wild card at the minute. I'd love to see them do it for the crack. Just on that, Odell had a great day. Isaiah Likely had a really, really cool touchdown as well, but their defense is just class. Kyle Hamilton looked like he might have an issue with an injury, might be out for a bit. But it's time for Sunday Night Football, Conor. We've survived. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we pop? I know Dan Whalen doesn't play until tomorrow.
He's playing tomorrow, but we as viewers and whatever you want to call it, fans, we can vote for the Pro Bowl. Vote for Dan Whelan. Michael, if you want to post on socials, get it out to NFL Ireland. Let's get our boy to the Pro Bowl. He had an unbelievable year for rookie. A very, very long season ago. Let's not forget, he did the XFL before doing this whole thing. So he's punted the ball about 80,000 times this year. So before his leg falls off, let's give him a trip to Hawaii and get him a Pro Bowl selection. So everyone, you can go vote for your boy, Daniel Whelan. Let's get him into Pro Bowl.
Let's get him in the Pro Bowl. And I'll start posting that this week. Just very, very quickly, because I have it on me right now. If I can pause the screen, I probably can't. 9% chance for the Chiefs to get the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Ravens are at a 57% chance. The Dolphins are at 31%. Props to NBC Sports Live. Before we go, very, very quickly, have to bring it up. College Game Day coming to Dublin next summer. Pat McAfee followed us on Twitter this morning, and I nearly cried. So, holy shiza.
Big Pat. He was a punter. Remember, these punters and kickers, they're nice fellas.
I thought it was a joke. So props to Pat. He hasn't unfollowed us yet. If you want to follow us, folks, you can at NFL Ireland on social media. We're on tour with Jeff 8 nights in a row next month. linktr.ee/NFL Ireland. Where are we going? Galway, Cork, Limerick, Dundalk, Belfast, Derry, Dublin, Dungannon. 8 nights in a row. And then we're heading to Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. NFL Ireland on Instagram, on TikTok, on X. Dropkick Mangan on the IG boy. Conor, looking forward to seeing you again during the week, man. I appreciate your time, your support for this. Enjoy Sunday Night Football, man.
Can't wait. Go Birds.
Well, I think the Cowboys are going to win. Folks, enjoy your Monday for listening to the podcast. Chat to you soon.